It's a trap!
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
This is the Team of Rivals podcast.
Everything you want to hear from the big sports to the big screen.
He's all by himself, fires into the end zone. Caught! Touchdown! No! Vaughn into the windup in his first offering. Just a bit outside. He tried the corner and missed.
He doesn't like you. I don't like you either.
Time winding down. Michael for three. Yeah! Yes! She is gone!
I can't believe what I just saw!
Go crazy, folks! Go crazy!
You believe in miracles? Yes!
You may fire when ready.
What?
Welcome to the Team of Rivals podcast. It's Thursday, September 3rd. So glad to have you guys here. We got an exciting show for us this week. We're going to talk 2020 trade deadline, bases loaded letdowns, the end of Matt Carpenter, the obnoxious Cubs bench, and we have a premiere date for The Mandalorian Season 2. But before we get into things, just to remind you, we are on the web. We've got our own website, teamrivalspodcast.com. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And if you're listening to us on the podcast, you can always catch us live on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope. And if you're watching us live, welcome. So before we jump into tonight's show, I'm just going to jump to what I know Ron was thinking, even though he didn't say it during the trade deadline. Go fuck yourself, San Diego. Ron, 2020 trade deadline. What do you think?
This is a recording. Same thing I probably said last year. I could say this year. Hey, the good news is we're everywhere we're supposed to be tonight. I just checked, man. We're on a roll so far.
Outstanding. Well done, sir.
All right.
So, gentlemen, trade deadline. The Cubs were semi-active. They covered their needs, but didn't make any splashes. And Ron, are the Cardinals still an active franchise, or did they just shut that thing down and we missed it?
Well, there are some out there that wish they just would have, but they're still hovering around that 500 mark. They went on that 4-game skid last week, and then the trade deadline happened, and they didn't do anything. And we discussed this on Two Birds on a Bat with a guy named Anthony Stalter, who's on 101 ESPN in St. Louis, and we're all kind of came to the same conclusion. I don't really think that there was one big move they could have made that was really going to impact them as much as it probably should. Now, adding somebody like a Starling Marte to your lineup is certainly not going to hurt anything, but I don't know if the Cardinals would have been willing to offer ultimately what Miami was able to give to Arizona. So I think it was the whole cost. They ran into a barrier on cost, and really this season's strange. I think the excuse that's right there, that there's some legitimacy to it, but the easy one to pull out of the pocket would have been, well, look, we said we wanted to know what we had in these outfielders. We've only had 28 games to find out. That's not enough time to answer that question. Who are these guys and what are they capable of? You could telegraph that all the way to the stoppage, and then as we approach the deadline, you knew that was going to be part of the logic. And look, I could form a case for that. But I am not shocked at all that they didn't do anything. Look, they've got a ton of arms in their bullpen. They've got depth in the pitching staff. I mean, the only deal that we've seen them make recently that I recall has been for a reliever or two. They really haven't got any bats at the deadline for several years, and they got a hefty bullpen right now. So, and bullpen's not their problem, by the way. So it's the offense, and unfortunately, I don't think that there was a series of moves that they would have been willing to pay for that would have made the impact that they need. So. They sat on their hands, but I honestly right now I can't really say I blame them a whole lot. I don't know what they really could have done.
And obviously cost certainty going into next year is a huge thing. Obviously nobody other than AJ Preller was willing to take on any kind of salary into the future. And you're not going to trade away prospects if you don't know what next year's salary is going to look like. So, Elliot, what do you think? Were you surprised to see the Cardinals completely sit on their hands at the deadline?
No, I wasn't, because usually they're pretty good for at least like a trade or two. And I mean, whether it was an impact bat or an arm, I am super surprised that they didn't do anything. And I know these are odd times and a weird season that we're having. So the fact that, I mean, yeah, we're 28 games into the season. I mean, we're halfway done with the season right now. So something. I mean, whether it was something small like the Cubs did, because I certainly don't feel like they improved much by what they brought in. Certainly, the speed and the defense of Maben is going to be, be good, especially with what happened in today's game with Ian Happ. So, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it plays out. I mean, certainly the Cardinals offense needs to start clicking a little bit better for them to start making. What's that?
A lot better, Elliot.
Yeah, a lot. So I mean, they're kind of they're treading water right now, I feel like. So I mean, a streak here or there could totally upend that bottom half of the NL Central.
Yeah, we could get really fooled by the one game too. The Tuesday morning before I did the Birds on a Bat show, I was looking at Fangraphs and looking at all the numbers, right? And I know the Cardinals are anywhere from like 8 to 10 games behind most other teams. When I still look at where they were ranking offensively, I mean, they were like 25, 26, in almost any category you looked at, whether it be strikeout percentage or just, weighted runs created plus, all those stats that I didn't look at years ago, but I kind of do look at now because I understand them a little bit better. But even the basics, I mean, they were at the ass end of every offensive category you could think of. They had that one game in Cincinnati where they put up a fat number, right? Where it was a really lopsided score of 16 runs. And then I checked it out of curiosity. I'm like, holy shit! Oh, wouldn't you have it? Now they're middle of the pack offense, so you could really be fooled if you haven't been paying attention and you just go to the stats without knowing what's happened this year. You look at it and go, they're fine. They're middle of the road, but they got great pitching. So,
yeah, and I think that's kind of the deceiving thing about this season, just in general, is it doesn't take much to move the needle. Because the sample sizes are so small, and until you get to the end of the season, it's going to be really difficult to tell just how good any particular team or player is, because you have one hot stretch. And all of a sudden, exactly like you said, Ron, I mean, it only took one game for the Cardinals offense to go from the bottom to the middle of the pack. And obviously that's not indicative of the way that they've played this year. But yeah, I'm with you, Elliot. I was mildly surprised that the Cardinals didn't do anything, given how easy it is to get into the playoffs this year. In a regular year, I could definitely understand not making a stronger move based where they are. But I was surprised. Ron, here's what I want to know. Were you more surprised by the Cardinals not doing anything, or by Cafe Jr., Cafecito, landing in Chicago?
Oh yeah, that one hurt. But before I go there, I will say that the only part I disagree with you a little bit on, Pete, because they have a good chance to make the playoffs like others. The problem is others have a chance now they normally wouldn't have. So you might have a franchise or two out there that just, okay, maybe we won't be sellers right away this year, and we'll see where this takes us. Now on to Cafe Jr. Look, he's a unique player. He really is. I mean, I remember being at the game, Pete, in Wrigley. I hadn't seen him bat live from that angle, and I'm like, wow, all of that. He's got parts moving everywhere. I mean, if he had a tail, it would have been wagging. So, I love the guy's personality. He was fantastic. I mean, that was one of the few players. You've got a guy like Goldschmidt, and we love him, but I mean, his idea of a wild night out is maybe just unbuttoning the top button. Whereas you got characters like Jose Martinez, who's just fun. He's a fun player. Look, he's a defensive liability, and I think had somebody had a crystal ball in the Cardinals organization last year, we might not have dealt him knowing that the DH was going to be a thing. So, Look, I understand why they got rid of him when they did. There really wasn't a long-term need for him, but I think
fit.
Yeah, really, or fit, right, in a National League style, right? So, they dealt him to an American League team, which was where you would have predicted they would have done it. And, he can hit. You look at his numbers this year, you might not be overwhelmed by him, but that guy's a hitter. He was one of the better hitters in the playoffs last year. I wouldn't even call him streaky. I think he was pretty steady. So I think he picked up a decent bat. I'm sure.
Although I don't think he's gotten a hit for us yet, has he, Elliot?
Unless he got one today.
Oh, did he? Okay, I missed today's game.
No, he's a
I'm saying
good player.
Unless he got one today. So
yeah, well, he's a good player. You guys will like having him, much like you told Pete. You told me when we acquired Dexter, we would like him. Now you've been wrong. But I think you guys will enjoy your short time with Jose Martinez. He's a hell of a guy.
Well, it's been about a week since I've seen Dex hit. He was leading the team at
He's
some
on the
point,
IL. They put him on the IL.
He's gone now.
He might not be back. Yeah,
he's not going to be back.
I don't think so either. The story is, and there's been more to it, but I've been at work all day and I've had to deal with the family things that we do on a night, so I haven't been able to go back and look to get an update on the story. But evidently, it was medication he was taking could have compromised his immune system, so the Cardinals wanted him to go on the IL, and so
really,
with only this many games left,
I actually read a little more on that story, Ron. So he's got some kind of digestive thing. I don't know if it's a stomach or what that he's been dealing with, and they put him on a medication to help take care of that. But as you said, the problem is that the medication now has compromised his immune system, and so out of an abundance of caution, he doesn't have COVID-19.
Yeah.
But they don't want to take the chance that he could get it and really put his life in danger. So they put him on the IL, and the chances that he's going to make it back. I mean, we've only got a month left. The chances that he's going to make it back in time are pretty darn slim. I don't think that we're going to see Dexter Fowler again this year.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because actually he's been he's been the best consistent hitting outfielder for him this year, and of course that would be his luck, right? To be off to a pretty solid start to the year, be fairly reliable, and of course this would happen to him. Now I wonder why he was on stomach medication to begin with. It's probably because of all the dickhead Cardinals fans he had to deal with on Twitter last week.
It's probably an ulcer that he's dealing with.
Could be.
Well, probably because of dickhead Cardinals fans out there, right? On Twitter and social media. And, I'm still disappointed by you fuckers.
People.
No. I'm still disappointed by him, guys. I haven't changed my stance. I know it's not on the docket tonight. I won't go into it.
All right, so I'm going to throw you guys back and do a little think piece here. I want you to go back to 2017. We'll go back to the end of the 2017 season, okay? If I told you that the Cubs would acquire Jose Martinez Jr., they would be running out Kyle Schwarber, Jose Martinez, Ian Happ, and Jason Hayward. Which would be more surprising? That Kyle Schwarber's in the outfield and Cafe Jr. is DHing, or that the Cubs arguably have the best outfield in Major League Baseball in 2020? Which one would be harder to believe?
It would definitely
that they have the best outfield in Major League
They
Baseball.
have the best offensive outfield in baseball, but potentially.
But defensively, their outfield is not hurting them.
No,
which
you're right.
Which
offense
helps with the contributions of their offense.
Yeah, well, like I said, look. You want your center fielder to be pretty solid, right? And you can put up with your right fielder, more so your left fielder, being a little bit of a defensive liability if their bat makes up for it, right?
Right.
I.e. players like Marcell Ozuna and that sort. So
3 home runs the other night, by the way.
I know, man. He paid tribute to Chadwick Boseman, right?
Boseman?
Yeah, he did a Black Panther thing. So at the end of it, I thought that was pretty cool. Look, I'm still not changing my stance on Marcell Ozuna too. I think they did the right thing by letting him walk, and of course,
yeah, they did.
And of course, you do have Cardinals. Just go search it, man. I know you don't waste your time because you know what you're going to hear. Like, oh, great, we let him walk. I mean, unless they were playing, where was that? In Boston that night, and the Cardinals aren't playing Boston this year, by the way. That doesn't happen. And by the way, the other thing that Cardinal fans have been all over, and of course, optically you think, man, that Cardinals front office is a bunch of dipshits, right? Because you look at Luke Voit tearing it up a bit for the Yankees. I mean, he's hitting great, and of course, we dealt him away for Giovanni Gallegos, which he's been a really good reliever for them. And by the way, you shipped Luke Voit off. He was in AAA, and you traded for Paul Goldschmidt. So come on, I mean, what did you want? He wasn't in the picture, and there's no saying that he was going to do that for St. Louis. By the way, so he's hitting the cover off the ball though. But yeah, if you don't know any better, which most Cardinal fans don't, because they don't read shit, they just look at a headline that says, "Oh, Voit hits number 12" or whatever, and then like, "Oh, great, he could have been our first baseman. Well, how many's Goldschmidt got? 2?" Like, yeah, all right, cool.
There's a slight difference in the defenses played at first base.
I was about to say I don't see Luke Voit getting a Gold Glove again this year.
Yeah,
not even being in contention.
And Paul Goldschmidt, for the Cardinals being the best defensive team in baseball last year, you can attribute like 70% of that to Paul Goldschmidt.
Oh,
yeah. I mean, and you know what? Good defenses have that. They have a first baseman that can pick one out of the dirt when somebody rushes a throw. So they look at, well, so and so is an awesome second baseman. Well, you know what? 10% of Colton Wong's Gold Glove goes to Paul Goldschmidt.
Absolutely. 100%. Hey, I don't know if, Ron, you were paying attention to the waiver wires today, but one of our favorite beer league all-stars got picked up by the Milwaukee Brewers.
Oh, boy. Hang on. I haven't seen it. I want to guess this. I want to get it right so bad.
So he had 4 hitless at-bats with the Toronto Blue Jays, and they released him, and the Brewers picked him up today. That's your clue.
Shit.
He didn't start the season with the Blue Jays.
Yeah, I'm not going to get it. Who is it?
Dan Vogelbach.
Oh, man. Yeah,
2019 All-Star has landed in Milwaukee. The large adult son is back at Wrigley Field North.
Who was the guy that Milwaukee had a few years ago that hit a ton of home runs, had a terrible batting? No, not Thames. There was another guy they had. He hit a ton, but they didn't pick up. They let him walk, and of course, he's not even in the league anymore. So I can't remember who that was. But isn't that amazing? You get somebody that. I mean, how many times has this happened in recent history where you've got somebody that's an all-star one year and then can't even find a job the next year? That's crazy. It's crazy.
Is that Scooter Jeanette?
No. I can't.
Well, that happened with Brian LaHare. Right before Anthony Rizzo came up, he had an all-star first half and literally made the all-star game as the first baseman because he had such a ridiculous first half. Anthony Rizzo came up and Brian LaHare just kind of went away.
Floated away.
Didn't he go to Colorado and have a pretty decent year the next year and then floated away?
I don't think so.
I think I remember hearing his name post Chicago. I just don't remember.
He never had anything to match though that first half of what was it, 2013? I think it was.
Yeah.
Speaking of, I've got another candidate for this scenario we're talking about right now, and he's a Cardinal right now. That would be.
For a beer league all-star?
That would be Brad Miller. He's hit the cover off the ball. He's been probably one of their better hitters the whole year. He's going to be another one of those stories. Like, we're not going to know him in 3 years. We're not going to know who he is. Diehard Cardinal fans are going to remember, but I have a suspicion that's another one we're not going to hear about down the road.
So this is a question, right? In a short season with a small sample size, are Cardinals fans going to get overly excited about him and start projecting into next year and be like, look at the stats he put up in 2020, man?
Likely, but I think it's equally as likely that he gets a 2-year extension because they love to do that shit.
No, absolutely.
Of course he does, because apparently John Mozeliak just has those in a candy dish in his office, and he just gives them out to people who have good seasons.
Yep. Or a good month or two. Like Carpenter did in 2018, which is another thing that people are in uproar over. And I got Twitter going last night just on it was
he had a good 2 months with good salsa. Do you remember that?
Yeah, oh my God.
So speaking of which, Ron, you mentioned it, and I imagine that this is how you got Twitter going. Is this the end of Matt Carpenter?
Yeah, oh, good segue. I was ahead of you. I know this was a segment I asked to be added. Look, for me it is, because I look at who they're running out there every night, right? And so you've got this question about who are some of these young outfielders, you know. Can Tyler O'Neill figure it out? What do we have in Dylan Carlson? Now that we brought him up, I haven't seen him for like 4 games in a row now. Harrison Bader has barely played. You know, it was Lane Thomas last night. It was, I can't even remember who the hell they had out there, but it wasn't any of those guys. And so you still have all these guys you had big questions, like who are they? What can they do? And you have a DH role now that you didn't have before. Matt Carpenter's batting terrible. He's batting well under 200. He's batting like 180, I think, and striking out a third of his at bats. On base percentage of I think under 350. I mean, he's just he's beyond even a shell of what he used to be. And so I see him in there day in and day out, either at third base. Well, here's the thing that drives me nuts, guys. Fuck, you got me going on this one. So because Matt Carpenter's bat has to be in that lineup, and because we have some injuries now, right? Matt Carpenter, if he's not at DH continually, now he's at third base. And you activate a young outfielder who you said, we got to find out who these guys are. And now I see an infielder in the outfield in Tommy Edman. So it is maddening that you look, and because Carpenter has to be in that lineup, that now you've diminished your defense at third. Now Edman was in left field last night. I couldn't remember. Edman, who's now in left field, now you've diminished your outfield defense, because he's not an outfielder. He's had very few games out there, and so. But then you still have this question of, well, who are these outfielders? Well, I don't know. They're not fucking playing. They're not playing because Matt Carpenter's bat just must be in this lineup.
And why? That's the question I have: is why must his bat be in the lineup? Is it purely the contract? Because if you look at the numbers he's putting up, and again, it's a small sample size. But
no, it's not. It's 2 years of this shit now. It's 2 years of this shit.
Yeah, I know, but this year is particularly bad.
No, sure.
This year's
sure
extremely bad, because if you look at, your favorite site, most definitely Fangraphs, right? Like his walk percentage is up, but his strikeout percentage is way up. It's at 27%. That would be the highest of his career.
It was higher on Tuesday when I looked at it. It was 33.
Yeah, right now he's slashing, if you're into the old numbers, 175, 340, 250. And if you want to look at new stats, his WRC plus is 76.
Yeah.
And that's mirrored by his WAR, which is a 0.
Well,
so
I don't know how the hell his
he's
WAR
a
is
replacement
0,
level player.
I can't fuck that number. There's no way he's a replacement level player right now. He's below that, and because that's why I like the weighted runs created plus. The league average it averages out everybody. Took everybody, averages them all out of 100. Mm-hmm. He's what, 76? You just said
76. So he's 24% worse than the average.
I don't know how the fuck his WAR is 0, but okay. Bill James, I'll call you later and you can explain that to me. But
his offensive is negative. Yeah, that's an interesting one on Fangraphs, because his offensive is negative 3.1 and his defense is negative 1.4. How in God's name does that add up to 0?
I don't know. It makes perfect sense to me. I guess a negative.
It's just stellar base running.
I guess they, a negative times a negative equals a positive, right? Isn't that the rule? But look, I think he's done, and unfortunately, they did sign him to the extension, so they've got him through 2021, and it's 2022, which everybody's up in arms over. Like, oh Jesus, we have him through 2022. Well, no, he's got to get
an option.
He has to get 550 at bats to have it vest next year.
Right.
There's no way in hell they better let that happen.
Yeah.
And this year, number at bats are prorated, right, for the size of the season. So he was supposed to get 1,100 at bats in 2020, 2021. Boy, the Cardinals would really be stupid if they put him in there.
And I understand that it's prorated, but paying him $18.5 million for this production this year, well, which is going to translate to about $6 million. Still, right. $6 million for this production.
No, and here's the thing, man. I've said many times, like, I liked that player when they had him in the role that he was suited for.
Yeah,
and they've asked him a few times now to be something that he's not, and so it has fucked him up. Now, age could be a factor as well. I know he's had some shoulder injuries, but he's just right now to keep putting him out there daily is maddening. When in the same breath you tell us that, well, we want to find out what we have in the young guys. Well, you can't have both. You can't have it both ways. Unfortunately, Pete, they probably are playing to the contract. But at some point in time, you got to look at this and go, are we better off paying a guy $18 million to not be an automatic out in the lineup every night? Because I think it's probably better business to look at it that way once in a while. I don't think you're getting him back. If you look at his numbers from September of 2018 to September of 2020, he wouldn't have survived in most organizations. He would have been DFA'd long ago. You take somebody that's got deep pockets that can buy their way out of problems. He's gone. He's no longer part of the team. So, look, I like what the guy's done. I definitely like his attitude when you hear him talk about it, and I feel bad for him. Nobody hates this more than he does, but as a fan, I'm allowed to feel the way I feel, and I just don't want to see him in the lineup anymore. He needs to be a bench bat. I just don't. Yep. I don't know if they'll do it.
It seems to me, Elliot, in a perfect world, he would be the Cardinals' version of Ben Zobrist with the Cubs. He'd be your Swiss Army knife who you can slot into any number of positions to give guys a break and to get his bat in.
Any number of positions you want. Okay, you go ahead and put him then at second base now.
Well, I know, but I'd rather have him at second base than third base because at least he can make the throws.
Yeah, but Ben Zobrist has had much better contact than Carpenter. Way less strikeouts for sure. But
it's not a perfect comparison. But
you'd wish that he'd be that.
And I think that may be what Zobrist was if he and the Cubs had continued to have him play this year, right? Because we saw some slippage in his performance last year. If he had played this year, he's somebody, I think that you're right, Ron. You roll him out there from time to time to spell guys in the lineup, and then you've just got a valuable bat off the bench.
Should we just start calling him Grandpa Carpenter?
I don't even. I mean, I don't know. Call him whatever you want. I call him a bench bat.
But and Ron, I agree with you. Like the one thing, this year more than ever, right? Every team has deep pockets because every team is taking a loss. So if there's any year where you're going to make difficult decisions like this and just say to a guy, you're not doing us any good, it's this year. Right? You just throw him on the bench because you're going to lose the money anyway. And you keep, if you're not going to dump him, then don't play him. But
right.
To continue to make your team weaker, it just doesn't make sense.
Hey guys, I better plug my laptop in. So you guys keep going. Otherwise we're all going to be out of here quick.
Okay. Well, I don't know that if everybody would complain about that, but it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, I don't think. Do you, Elliot?
I don't know. We've got 10 people on YouTube right now watching live. So hello, people.
So I know one of the things that we were going to talk about while Ron is plugging things back in, bases loaded letdowns. And it was funny that Ron was the one who proposed this because if anybody.
No, that was me.
Was it you?
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry. My apologies, Elliot. I got confused.
I know the green bubbles. Yeah, my bad.
Yeah. Those of you who are watching, in case you were wondering why Elliot didn't join us last week, it's not because we were really going to replace him with El. It's because he got a new phone and didn't tell us. And now he's got some Android piece of shit, and that broke our group chat. So Ron and I were texting with him, trying to stay in touch, and he wasn't getting any of our messages. So
nope.
You can blame Elliot's absence on him last week. No, bases loaded letdowns. My God, the Cubs are just